Princess.
The Canada tour was a feeding frenzy for the world's press. But while the rest of the world's gaze fell upon the Duke and Duchess last summer, William only really had eyes for Kate.
He was a really attentive husband, and it was lovely to see that. You know, he was concerned about her all the time. If there was a walkabout and it looked like it was really, really robust, he'd say to her, "Do you want me to come with you? Are you comfortable with this on your own?"
Over the past year, it's been clear that William's been mindful of the pressures placed on Kate at public events. The burden of press intrusion that comes with being his wife is something that's always concerned him.
Happy birthday, Kate. Her and her family, I really want to make sure that they have the best sort of guidance and chance to see what life has been like, or what life is like in the family, and that's kind of almost why I have been waiting this long, is I wanted to give her a chance to see and to back out if she needed to, before it all got too much, because, you know, I just wanted to give her the best chance to settle in and see what, you know, what happens the other side.
From Kate's first official interview last November, he's been ready to jump in and help her out with probing questions when her nerves get the better of her.
No, it's obviously nerve-wracking because I don't know what I'm I don't know the ropes really. William was obviously used to it, but no, I'm willing to learn quickly and work hard. And
She'll do really well.
Yeah.
We'll do very well.
This is the first time she'd ever been heard in public, and so there's a sense of responsibility, a sense of protection, and a sense that she's new to something he's been brought up to do all his life. And it was very tender and very endearing.
And ever since then, he has rarely been far from Kate's side. William knows all too well just how quickly a harmless comment can turn into a damning news report.
He's quite clever now. He's quite astute. You know, he knows where a question's coming from. He knows that there's somebody getting too close. You know, a camera probably getting too close, and he's aware of that. He's very shrewd, William, and I'm sure he makes Kate very aware as well.
William has been exposed to press intrusion all of his life. His protectiveness of Kate in the present is, of course, influenced by events locked in his past. To understand his guardedness, we need to go back to where it started.
In the 80s, when Prince Charles and Diana got married, there was aggressive reporting, aggressive pictures, day in, day out, day in, day out. And in the end, of course, it drove the poor princess mad. She was bouncing off the walls at the end. She didn't know where to go. But people sort of sticking cameras in their face. And, you know, it's well reported that at one stage she ran into a doorway, sobbing and crying because she didn't know which way to turn.
Remember that it was William, really, whose shoulder Diana used to cry on when she was miserable at Kensington Palace.
William's memories of this time in his childhood will never be forgotten.
Paris is tonight a city of questions, and the main one is, how could such a tragic accident have occurred? Police have been questioning 7 photographers who pursued the princess's car before it crashed. She was terribly injured. Doctors tried for hours to save her, but they couldn't.
In 1997, his mother, Diana, Princess of Wales, was killed in a tragic car accident in Paris. At the time of the collision, she was being pursued by a number of photographers.
After the death of his mother, in the first few days, it was thought that it was a paparazzi who caused her death, and he'd seen, you know, the day-to-day life before that, of where she was chased down the street by photographers, where she'd been hounded on a daily basis.
I don't say it was directly caused by pursuing paparazzi, but they were part of the cocktail, and they were part of the reason why the driver was speeding.
Grief and anger shook the country, but how were the princes coping?
During the turbulent week leading up to Diana's funeral, William actually talked about becoming a recluse and leaving royal life altogether. So it took a Herculean effort on behalf of the royal family and politicians to bring him back into a state where he was prepared to face the British public and, of course, the hated media. And Prince Philip, his grandfather, was instrumental in convincing both William and Harry to walk behind Diana's funeral cortege. They both argued vociferously, especially William, that they weren't going to be part of some media stunt. And he said, if I walk, will you walk? And at that kind of 11th hour, William and Harry agreed to do so.
As the nation mourned the loss of a princess, they also heaped protectiveness onto the princes. Surely it was time now that they were also afforded some privacy.
The media themselves just shrank back because they knew that the public would be outraged.
The press agreed to give William and Harry the space they needed from constant intrusion during their school years. But William had already developed an understandable grudge.
He was very antagonistic and very hostile towards the media. And you saw that when he was at Eton, where he begrudgingly gave interviews, he begrudgingly gave photo calls, and it took courtiers a number of years to actually convince him to deal with the media on a more mature footing.
I was a bit anxious about how everything was going to turn out, but thanks to everyone, it really has been brilliant. You've all left me alone at the beginning. The whole of Eton made a real big difference with everyone not trying to sort of snap a picture every time I was walking around the streets, and I hope it just continues for Harry as well while he's there.
Aside from the odd occasion, the standoff from the press continued for William even throughout university.
William Wales.
William gave a rare interview after he left university. The press were interested to know about his relationship with Kate. Even then, he was clearly uncomfortable with the attention.
Could there be another wedding perhaps on the card sometime soon?
No, I don't think so.
A lot of coverage this morning, William, of Kate. I wonder how you feel about that and how she's bearing up under the scrutiny.
I haven't seen any of it. I'm just gagging it on the slopes, basically. Simple as that.
Not much snow about, though.
I was enough up there.
Eventually, though, he would have to adjust to the interest that comes with being an active member of the royal family. Now, a married man, William's royal role has been cranked up, placing him well and truly into the spotlight. Having enjoyed a relatively private experience whilst at university, how was he coping with the transition?
I think William is absolutely paranoid, actually, that Kate does not fall into the same trap as his mother.
He may have serious concerns about the pressure such sudden interests would place on Kate, who of course hasn't had the lifetime of experience he's had. But how do those on the sidelines rate her performance so far?
Certainly, Catherine had almost taken to the role as if to the manner born, even though she was a commoner. You could see that there was an almost audible intake of breath as people were saying, well, she's doing this okay, she's not had a conniption, she's kept her cool, and she seems to be taking it all in her stride.
She prepares very well for it. She's very well briefed, and I think she's embracing it, and I think she's enjoying it.
In fact, far from shying away from her role, Kate seems to have taken ownership of it.
You never get the impression that she is nervous. But what's interesting is he is very, very close to her at all times. And I spoke to people who had observed Charles and Diana in the old days and William in his bachelor days. And they said what's interesting is that William is completely tuned into her all the time. And at every stage, you could almost see him saying, are you okay with this? Are you happy with this? And I very much get the impression that she did it the way that she felt comfortable doing it.
It seems that William may have been surprised at just how resilient his bride actually was.
He seemed, to me, to be proud and to take a great deal of pleasure in everyone's pleasure in her, which was, you know, it was very touching.
Their body language screams love for each other. They're really in harmony. What they do mirrors each other. They're constantly just gently touching each other and always looking to the other one for reassurance, for comfort, for support. They're very, very in harmony.
William has looked on as Kate has delighted everyone she's met, charming even the most cynical media hacks. And watching the world's press embrace his wife seems to have brought about a significant change in the previously publicity-shy prince.
I think William has come to accept that if he's going to be king, if he's going to be a prince, he's got to engage with the media. And he's emerged as something of a consummate media performer.
We've grown to know a lot more about William than we ever have, both through his affection, the love he's shown for Kate and spoken publicly about, and also just through the work that he's done being highlighted because of their marriage.
William has shown himself to be the protector in their relationship, always attentive towards how Kate may be feeling. What does she bring to him in return?
There were moments when Kate gave William the nod after a speech and a good, well done pat on the back, and equally times where he was guiding her through engagements. And it was lovely, actually, to see William for once with somebody by his side, sharing royal life rather than just going solo.
Apart from anything else, I think you don't get lonely. It must be lonely otherwise. That sort of solitary existence as the one person who everyone's looking at must be easier when there are two of you.
Perhaps being a royal isn't always as glamorous as it seems.
They clearly share a good sense of humour, and I'm sure they have quite interesting banter at the end of every day where they've had to stand, you know, like effigies in a receiving line or eat another plate of rubber chicken. I think the job of a royal is ineffably boring, and I wouldn't want to be, or my daughter to be, poor Kate Middleton for a million years, because, you know, she's got to have a life of service. So at the end of the day, you've got to have someone who you can turn to and say, that was a nightmare, or wasn't it amazing when?
Kate's life has undergone a huge transformation since marrying her prince. But is it possible that her presence is shaping William's path as well?
I think William and Kate really complement each other well. They're quite alike in many ways in that they're quite calm and considered, quietly confident people, but actually Kate has quite a calming influence on William, who might have a little bit more of a temper than she does. Also, I think the notion that she is from an ordinary family, a normal girl, a commoner as she's described, rather than being born into royal life, does help keep it real a bit for William, who's never known anything other than being in the monarchy.
In fact, it's Kate's ability to relate to people and put them at ease that's so often remarked upon. How has she succeeded in making everyone adore her?
You've got a very impressive selection of medals.
Catherine's very intuitive with people. It comes to her naturally. So when we see her with the child, talking to the child, she's down on her knees looking at the child at eye level to make him feel reassured and not anxious.
Kate's affection towards people has led to inevitable comparisons to her late mother-in-law. Does Kate fill the void Diana left in William's life?
I would love to have met her, and she's obviously she's an inspirational woman to look up to.
We've watched William flourish under Catherine's tutelage. He's learnt humour, he's learnt to relax. He's turning into the kind of man his mother would have been enormously proud of, and a lot of that is down to Catherine.
She's probably better educated than Diana ever was, has a different outlook on life. But of course, William will find love and tenderness there that he may have missed throughout his teenage years because his mother wasn't around.
No one's going to try and, no one's trying to fill my mother's shoes, and what she did is fantastic. It's about making your own future and your own destiny, and Kate will do a very good job of that.
You do that. I do the talking bit, she's going to do the fun bit.
Kate's influence has certainly drawn out the playful side of the prince that the rest of us, at least, have only recently come to know.
You know, he's not the first guest you'd think of for a fun dinner party. Harry, you want along because he'll be the one playing the practical jokes.
But from what we've seen over this last year, perhaps Harry isn't the only jester of the castle.
I think a lot is known about Prince Harry being the joker of the family, but actually William does have a sense of humour. He just keeps it closer under guard and perhaps doesn't wear his heart on his sleeve as much.
It's no surprise then that Kate's humour played a big part in the attraction for William.
We met at university at St Andrews, and we were friends for over a year first. And it just sort of blossomed from then on. We just spent more time with each other and had a good giggle, had lots of fun, and realised we shared the same interests and just, you know, had a really good time. She's got a really nice sense of humour, which kind of helps me because I've got a very dirty sense of humour. So it was good fun. We had a really good laugh, and then things happened.
She finds him funny, they have some good banter between them, and also she doesn't mind poking fun at him either, which is always a good thing, I think, in a relationship.
It's just really easy with being with each other, and it's really fun, and I'm obviously extremely funny, and she loves that.
It's not forced, and he is evolving in that way. He's developing the sort of humour that people can relate to and smile with him, and that will carry through. That's very important for his popularity as our future king.
There's a certain jollity and relaxation between them when they're together. I mean, they were companions and friends before they became lovers, and I think that that companionship is very apparent.
As well as sharing a sense of humour, their love of sport is something else they have in common.
Kate is probably as sporty as William, so they're always having a bit of banter about who's won this and who's doing that, and we've seen that throughout, but that's great, isn't it? Shows they're a very modern couple who are kind of, you know, vying with each other as well as with the rest of us.
William may be our future king, but in married life they're nothing but equals, and if they're competing, Kate isn't the type to just let him win.
Well, for instance, in the dragon boat race, you know, that I said to Catherine as she was getting on, you know, he thinks he's going to beat you. She said, oh, he wishes. And she's amazingly fit and also very competitive. I mean, William was desperate to win, you know. I mean, he would have felt awful if she'd have beat him, but, I mean, he didn't win by much, but, you know, he did win. And she, I think, was, you know, pleased that he'd won, in a way, you know. Although she really gave it everything. I remember she was determined.
She stepped out, and I think William's team had beaten her, but he put a lovely arm round her shoulder. The photographers went mad for that moment, and why wouldn't they? We don't often see public displays of affection, so that was quite a special moment.
Kate and William have become the most talked about couple in the world, but whilst they're accustomed to being in the limelight, they don't mind taking a step back either. On the 30th of July 2011, Kate and William attended the wedding of his cousin Zara Phillips to England rugby player Mike Tindall in Edinburgh. The nuptials couldn't have been more different to the pomp and ceremony of their special day a few months earlier, and the pair made every effort not to steal the spotlight from the bride and groom. With Kate's outfit so often hogging the headlines, the thoughtful Duchess opted to wear an old favourite, a beautiful but simple beige coat dress. Kate had worn this previously to the wedding of Camilla's daughter, Laura Parker Bowles, in 2006. The Queen, Camilla and Charles and Prince Harry were also in attendance, and show that the royals are just as comfortable playing second fiddle when it's someone else's turn in the limelight.
The great thing about William and Kate, particularly Kate actually, is that while they do know their place in public and that they need to engage with the crowds, etc., they're actually very good at stepping back when it's somebody else's big day. We saw that particularly at Zara Phillips's wedding. She was the bride on that day. Kate and William were very careful just to stay in the background.
Obviously, all eyes are going to be on Catherine, but she's taken great pains, and this is a sign of her charm, her natural charm and empathy, to ensure she doesn't upstage the bride. She has dressed smartly, quite traditionally. She certainly hasn't gone out to make people look at her. She's blended in with all the other guests in an absolutely appropriate way.
This modern couple are actually quite media savvy and seem to have learned to manage their exposure and use it to help out the causes close to their hearts.
This place is inspirational. I mean that in the truest sense of the word. It really inspires me.
Going beyond simply what's required of them, they've responded to national and international crises in their own personal way. In August, just months after we saw the entire nation come together to celebrate the royal wedding, cities around the country were ablaze with riots. For days, the shocking scenes were all anyone in Britain was talking about. The royal couple took matters into their own hands by organising a visit to a badly affected community in Birmingham.
It's very important that William and Kate are able to respond to national crises or topical issues such as the Birmingham riots or what's going around or going on in the world today, and in Britain particularly. In the case of the Birmingham riots, they were the ones who said to their aides at Clarence House, I think we should get involved in this in some way.
William and Kate arrived in Birmingham before even the politicians and took the initiative to visit the father of a man murdered during the altercations.
I'm grateful for the Prince and his wife for coming down. It was somebody like myself, I'm a nobody, and for them to come down, it was very, very touching.
It used to be they would wait for an invitation, or they would go through a list of invitations. They were quite kind of reactive. Now it seems they're a little bit more proactive.
This is about the survival of the monarchy becoming relevant in a world that does not see the monarchy in the same light that it did in 1900.
Again, in October, William and Kate joined forces with the Danish royals to lend their exposure to a worldwide UNICEF appeal. The appeal called for aid in East Africa to a region that suffered the worst drought in 50 years and left millions in poverty.
UNICEF are leading the way, and they're doing a fantastic job. Sadly, there's still a lot more to do, and that's why we're here today to try our best to put UNICEF ahead of the system again and get as many people as possible realising the truly horrendous situation that's going on in East Africa.
Speaking for the first time since the engagement interview, Kate was finding her voice too and keen to be part of the appeal.
Well, it's really just how shocking the situation still is. You know, it's been going for sort of 100 days or so, and it's really still ongoing.
Since lending his support to England's World Cup bid in 2010, William stepped in again in November. This time he was campaigning on behalf of footballers and the nation to convince FIFA to allow players to wear poppies on their shirts. It's clearly something he felt strongly about and showed he's not afraid to lend his weight to an important issue.
That lobbying of FIFA was part of his role as president of the Football Association, and as a future king, he carries that kind of weight. When he becomes king, he will have to stand at the sidelines and let the politicians do it. But for the moment, he can lobby and he can talk the talk.
As well as reacting to national and global events, working royals have always been keen to undertake work in the charity sector. William's ability to give exposure to a good cause has been long sought after by organisations around the world. But would Kate, a commoner and a newcomer to the royal family, be as in demand?
We understand that Kate was approached by more than 200 organisations in choosing patronages, and actually the ones she's chosen, she did research herself, made private visits to them as well as reading all their material, and she concluded that the art room, each the East Anglia Children's Hospices, the National Portrait Gallery and Action on Addiction would be her key patronages for the first year of her royal life, and then volunteering with the Scouts as an added extra in Wales.
So in less than a year of marriage to Prince William, Kate's PR power has skyrocketed. But this is also Kate's day job and something she's put a great deal of thought into.
Let's not forget that charity work and royal duties are really the only career options open to her. So yes, she's going to do charity work. Yes, she's going to be Prince William's consort. I think she's got her work cut out. But it will be important for the public to see her doing charity work, some seriously crunchy, unpaid work as well as standing by her man's side.
By working hard, the royals remain relevant to society and maintain a legacy. But does this support actually have any real value for the organisations they're backing?
For the Duchess of Cambridge to involve herself in any of those charities is the equivalent of winning the lottery. So every one of those charities, from the hospices to the arts schemes to the Scouts, I mean, I forgot the Scouts existed until I saw Kate with a woggle.
Really, it couldn't be better for their publicity. It is money you can't spend on publicity value in terms of putting stories about their charities that might have maybe got a couple of paragraphs inside a newspaper right onto the front page. And we've seen that with Kate's charities. The Scouts, for instance, are absolutely delighted to have Kate as a volunteer. Suddenly, women or young girls everywhere will be wanting to volunteer for the Scouts. And that is the kind of impact they have. So it's immeasurable.
I really hope I can make a difference, you know, even in the smallest way. Yeah, I'm looking forward to helping as much as I can.
So, the royal endorsement is priceless, but what about the vulnerable individuals at the heart of these charities?
After they'd visited the hospital in Montreal, I was able to go in and speak to some of the patients who they'd met, and it was unmistakable that the joy that they had brought to the children and the parents in that hospital. And they'd got amongst them and they'd cuddled them, and they had spoken to the mums who were there and the dads who were there as well. Those children who were really ill had a great day. And I think they had a better day as a result of Kate and William having visited them than perhaps they might have had otherwise. And you know, you can't put a price on that.
From visiting hospitals to meeting presidents, Kate has shown an impressive ability to adapt to any occasion. But Kate's not just anybody, she's the future Queen Consort, which means her role is to support William when he becomes king. And according to this tradition, it's customary for Kate to behave in certain ways in public. So who exactly is her mentor in such important matters? Who can Kate turn to for guidance?
Well, let's make no mistake here. William is Kate's advisor-in-chief on all royal matters. People have said that she doesn't have a lady-in-waiting and she doesn't have a stylist and she doesn't have this and that. Well, no, at the moment she's just got William. And not only is he her husband and lover and all the rest of it, but he's also her first port of call with any royal questions. And why wouldn't he be? He knows exactly how it works.
And as well as taking advice, Kate appears to be a natural. With the palace insistent that Kate be allowed time to ease into her role, Remembrance Sunday was tipped to be her first solo engagement. But Kate was handling her move into royal life with an unexpected confidence. So when Charles was unable to attend a charity event in October, she was an obvious choice to stand in on his behalf.
I think the fact that Prince Charles chose Kate to represent him at the Kind Direct function really shows how much he trusts his daughter-in-law and how much faith he has in her as a working royal. It was quite an endorsement, really. William wasn't there. Kate was going solo for the first time ever, and she handled it, of course, with characteristic aplomb, and Prince Charles would have appreciated that. I think Charles is chuffed to bits that William's married Kate. He likes her maturity, the fact that she's a proper grown-up who knows what's required of her.
It was a wise choice of the Prince to ask her to do that, because A, it would get maximum publicity, and B, people would say, what's in kind direct? And so, you know, it was very wise to do that. And of course she looked stunning, you know, she wore that fabulous dress and her hair beautifully done, and, you know, which was, having done receptions for that, I wished I'd have done that one that night.
Kate's appearance received high praise in the papers, but none was greater than Charles himself.
The Prince of Wales referred to her as my darling daughter-in-law, and she filled in for him beautifully.
It appeared that Kate's eagerness to please was going down well with all of the royals, and over this year she's established her place within the royal family.
Hey! Hey!
Quiet. Leave me alone. All right. You look here, look here. Tell you about this. I won't back. I won't back. I mean, on I all right. Okay.
Good morning, madam.
Good morning.
Biko kwa chaya again.
Oh, I have maybe cook alas 8 to 7.
Okay. 8 to 7. The time non kwa ihe unu na-eme ba na ihe mere ji na-esi nri.
Na ihe na-eme ebe a taa na enwere enyi m nwanyị na-agba nkwụ.
Okay.
Mbe si nri anyị. Yo ihe gbakọrọ m ka ọ wụ.
Okay.
Oduta da misi n'ihi ọ na-agba nkwụ.
Okay.
Ọ na-eme ịgba nkwụ nwa.
Okay. Hello, to do n'obi taa.
Ọ ga-adị mma ga ahụ ebe obi dị m mma.
Okay.
Ana ọha akwa nchọ akwa ihe nkwe ekpere ka ọ dị. Ọ bịa dịkwa na nke dị Chineke.
Amen. Gwatụna ihe ndị unu sigoro taa unu ji kwa ndị mmadụ.
Anyị esile rice. Na-esikwa ofe. Anyị ghela anụ. Ihe ndị ọzọ na-esikwa okwa. Okwa ebe na-etinye ndị ahụ esi. Salad. Ọ dị nchebedebe ndị a esi.
Okay. Ndewo.
Ndewo.
Isi n'ike.
Ndewo. Thank you. Ọ bụ ihe fọrọ ndụ. Ejibe m ndụmọdụ nke ndị. Yes, bibe leji.
When you look at me, you will know that today is a different day. You know, today is my wedding day. That is why I'm dressing like this. You are welcome. Yes, you can give me identity. From there I recognize you. Fine. Thank you. Umuanya Junction, Amwebo, one local government. Is that where he come from? Hey, very far. You are welcome. Okay, me by name, I'm a Tigro Mochita. Can't because by the way, the local government, other than a compound, I'm a museum of brain. I'm a young chief, that much for Samuel Okori, and I brought the kids of the Rogers, Abu Bungo, only Pro Hanila. Mamma, I go back in there, go back and take a spot. Because I call Manchester, I drink more. Bukolita, I gave much time to West. One of the I let you on.
Manchester, when you make a member, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Who you like, who you got, who they want to hear you interpreting you like this live. Even now, when you come down, it's why you're one. No one got any one. Oh, God, you want to go. Yes, you talk on it. I never thought the chairman of this high table. Edema ezitineke anywhere naba morena sema edema ezitineke edema Yes,
Oh, Chineke, onye okike kere elu ka lee ka anyị gbakọrọ na be Felix, Chief Felix Okaka maka ihi mmemme alụmdi na nwunye. Anyị kpọkụrụ gị bụrụ anyị onye isi oche, bụrụ anyị onye ọdụ oche. Bịa nọnyere anyị ihe niile gaa na ntụziaka gị. Ndị ọgọ m niile bịara abịa, unu ga ụkwụ unu jiri bịa, ụkwụ aka unu ga-ejela. Nsu mmụọ a ga-eso unu, nsu mmadụ a ga-eso unu. Ihe ọbụla ga-eri ebe a bụ ihe Chineke gọziri, nwere nkwado na ntụziaka Chineke. Ka Chineke gọzie ihe niile a ga-eweta ebe a ga-eri, ma mmiri anyị ga-aṅụ, na ndị niile nọ ebe a, ma ọpụpụ anyị ma mbata anyị, ụmụ anyị niile nke nọ ebe ọbụla ọ nọ. Ekpere anyị bụ ka anyị zụcha ha ka ha zụọ anyị, ka ụmụ anyị ka anyị. N'aha Jizọs. N'afa na.
Biko ana m eme ka nnabata otu reverend Okorongwo, biko anyị chọrọ ebe a isi n'otu onye Chineke ji were kwara ngwa ọrụ. Anyị chọkwara ka ị bịa n'ọgbọ. Ọgbọ anyị ejibere gị, gọọ Chukwu ejibere gị.
Ike nke dị n'ọbara Jizọs. Chukwu anyị na-ekene gị n'ihi mmemme dị ka nke a bụ nke ịkpọkọbara anyị n'ụbọchị taa ka anyị bịa bụrụ ndị akaebe na mmemme ọlụlụ di na nwunye. Chineke, ọwụ gị tọrọ ntọala ọlụlụ di na nwunye a kemgbe ụwa. I wee si otu a hazie ọ na-aga na nwoke ga-aji anyị udo chọta nwunye onye ya na ya ga-ebi. Nwa okorobịa achọtago nwa agbọghọ ka ya na ya wee lụọ di na nwunye. Anyị na-ekene gị n'ihi nke a, n'ihi na anyị maara na nrọpụta nke gị bụ Chineke ji aka gị wee rọpụta n'onwe gị. Arịrịọ anyị bụ taa ka ị bịa nọnyere anyị na mmemme nke a, ka emee mmemme a niile n'ụzọ a ga-enye gị bụ Chineke otuto. Ma emesịa anyị ga-eji mkpụrụ afọ na ihe niile dị mkpa wee gọzie ezinụlọ abụọ ndị a na-ejikọ n'ụbọchị taa. Anyị onwe anyị bụ ndị akaebe na mmemme a, na ị ga-agọzikwa anyị, gọzie ezinụlọ anyị, o wee bụrụ nke eji ama ezigbo atụ, na-abụghị nke a ga-eji wee kọọ ọnụ. Imeela gị onye na-aza ekpere, gị onye na-emezu ndị gị ihe, mezuoro anyị karịa ka anyị rịọrọ, n'ihi na anyị rịọrọ n'aha Jizọs Kraịst bụ onye nwe anyị. Amen.
Okpukpere nke Chineke ndị na-aba n'ime Baịbụl, so onye ka m gịrịsị ka obekwa nga dị nweta oke n'ime ndị na-eji ozi n'ime Baịbụl. Biko kọrọ na ya aka ọzọ.
Dịka ọ dị ugbu a, ana m anabata onye na ya ga-arụ ọrụ ebe a ugbu a bụ Chief Samuel Okole Zabugo. Biko bịa wụrụ ọrụ Manchester. Thank you. With the digital.
Hallelujah. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord.
Kọrọ Chineke aka n'ụzọ pụrụ iche. Unu akụkwara kọrọ Chineke. Kọrọ na ya na-akọrọ kọrọ Chineke. Buko onye niile a na-azụ ụlọ. Buko pụta na... Nwaanyị kwere di... Man of God. Man of God, who go get to the high table. I will high table. Okay, Ghana, for Mr. and Mrs. Emeka Madoka. Emeka Madoka. Ice water. Adam anabata n'ajoku. Nse atebo. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Because you do padanya, they're going to do yes, by the side. Mrs. Sabino Kumalonso. Commander. Chief to make them back, the Malakas and up each. The poor man who could have chief for the hour. Program. Where the program is okay, Shaman. All right. Shaman, you are welcome. Shaman, sir. I won't go again direct the affairs of this. Bible says, oh, why and I couldn't outdo. You will ask me, you will let thank you. I know you can wait to present the wedding with Shaman of the occasion. With all our people smoke, you know, as Shaman. God bless you. Thank you, sir. How about you? Oh, God, Chief, I will not talk to Chief. Focus here. We want not very good selection. Easy. Thank you, sir. Praise the Lord! So, praise the Lord! Hallelujah! We have now one name, one Baga Bayaramba, from Janga. And obedient to the God, only him come on, we know, Yenda, also I told God, Jesus. Amen. So, Mrs. Domino, come over in a book of what an
Dawa magana na backyard. Thank you. Baby maintenance I like the God I never engineer baby maintenance and also the Baba Bluetooth. Okay, ndị anyị nọ na be ha unu ga-ebunye anyị ọjị ozugbo ozugbo unu bute anyị ọjị anyị nwere keeki ebe a ihe anyị nọ ihe ahụ tradishọn anyị anọbeghị for wedding ndị bandị unu ga-achọ ezigbote egwu dị mma unu ga-akọrọ ha ga-eji were oche dịka nke a na-aga n'ihu mgbe ha ga-akụrụ onye ọbụla ga-ebu gịnị onye ọbụla ga-akwụrụ ọtọ ka ihe niile na-aga Google kadina ngena badoya bala ko to ngwe anyị ekelele Chineke n'ihi na ndị kpọrọ anyị okwu abụọ n'iru anyị n'oge awa eji m ohere a na-akpọlite otu onye Chineke tere mmanụ nọ n'etiti anyị n'oge awa maka ndị be anyị si na nwafe nna ọ bụrụ isi nka Reverend biko du anyị n'ebere gọziere anyị ndị a kedu onye rụrụ keeki ọnọkwa nso Okay, mba. Come no ugly woman.
Praise the Lord. Hallelujah. Ambo Mrs. Geraldine Akota. Ebu Lorum no number 22 Ebenator Road Monolo. Eba Kaina to wine mouth. But some wine ever, honey, the money on your move. How much the wine, man? Nay, designer, up a hotel and job. Then they depend on MMDG, Mandana Banco, maybe a decoration. Any them down, walk on. We know about like 21, Ebenator Omanolo. Eba cool on a bank organ with the canine, you know, blood on I again. And the major and I go back. Keka, you know, on email. You need to go over on email. Only a person alone didn't wire. You know, on email. One bank up. What the guy over you don't like again because I talk about again to feed it. So, Bob Lord in no town, what all be done on town? Open drink a wine or talk is one can work on top. And the one was slow with you and you may end up coming at the so, Mobile of I'm gonna get a ruby. Go much praise God.
Oh, why you couldn't Angel of Tomama, the one on the family. I told me I got one more than a car. Because I told me, oh, God, I can't car. No, God, why you didn't me? I told me, up to the car. Thank you. Some Puluqua, he said, I'm trying to do a one cake. Pulu is not done. Other corner, I can go to an busy. Yamo, I can use word of 5 letters. That 5 letters, every name must bow as far as that name is concerned, and every tongue must confess that he is Lord. Hallelujah. So at the count of that 5 letters, the last letter, it should be broken. J, E, S, U, finally, S. Because Koran Haka, yes. Onoga Huna Big Easy. Actually, I'm coming from wine. Makula de Gama wine. Wine is in that job, Yana Guinea, a beer you do, but the wine will go problem.
Praise the Lord. Hallelujah. Nedofu, my mother born on a chewa cake. I'm not a cheese of that, no good working. I can't go on your bushes. I call your bushes. My heart bought you to me when I was cake. One I see what the last is. How about it, Mayor? When you leave, how about you to me making it? What the cake? You can't know this is about why you got on good working. You know what I mean? What am I going to see? He gets you why something digging. But how about you go to be Mayor? Go with a half bag of you to be. Never got I praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord. I want to get a little my home that can wine and not big like that. So I will say, I got to let go. I'm going to what kind of thing can I?
Because Corona Haka, and when he entered, one question to you, Joma. EJ. Discussion on that, and one is at Masina, okay, here, hello! No. Yeah. EJ, Opanabania. Band, give me music, please. Madam, there were I came. Okay, Thank you. Corona haka biko. Corona haka. Ochen the one. I nekele biro. Ezike bezie. I nekele biyenne. Ndi ashebi. Unu ga-eduru dis. Unu ga-eduru di na nwunye tupu ha n'ụlọ ka ha kwadozie n'ọdị tradishọn. Onye keeki biko. and Mrs. Nicholas Onwumere. The Keba for the high table. Onwumere in a high table. Thank you. Anyị kelele Chineke na ọjị eprezentị n'ihu anyị niile n'ebe a kịta ndị anyị anwụghị onye bere ekpere si ka anyị na-ata ọjị a echere na anyị n'iru anyị atata ọgụ tata ụba tata ọganiru tata mmụọ azụ tata azụ azụkwara onye a ga-ekpere ọ ya dịrị na anyị otu a n'aha Jizọs Kraịst bụ onye nwe anyị. Ana m ewere ọjị ebe a m ga-eme nru ụlọ gwa ndị otu anyị silekwe na ihe m hụrụ ebe a anyị ahụgo ebe a anyị bịara na o nwere ihe m na-aghọta n'ime ya mkpụrụ ọjị na-abụọ ji ebe a na eji ala ụlọ ana m edome ịtụwe sọpọtụ ndị anyị zitere ebe ha ana m edome ha 2,000 naira maka mkpụrụ ọjị na-abụọ ji ebe a
biko kọrọ na aka otu ụka aka nọ n'ebe a ana m akpọbata ibe anyị nọ ihe ahụ ite Owerri ana m akpọ otu nwanne eze bụ eze na-anọrọ ebe a otu odibo eze ka ọ bịa were otu ọjị ọ ga-ewedere eze
na-abịaruo na abụọ omen biko ana m ewere ofu mkpụrụ ọjị ewela aka igwe ọnọhịa na-ewe na mkpụkpọ dị na-eru ihe n'aha Jizọs
ndị maka esi eke ihe okuke biko ele ndị ashebi ahụrụ ha dị too much si kee ha ụka ndị ashebi akwụkwọ nke m nọrọ ka ebe ụlọ ya etiri m ego ya eji tupụta ada ka ọ bịa ọha na mba anyị ataghị ọkpụkpụ ka m chọrọ ịta nwanne anyị nwaanyị biko ebe ọbụla ị nọ nke nwaanyị dịka ebe ọbụla ndị ashebi gị anyị na-atụ anya ka ibe gị n'ọha na eze ozugbo ozugbo na-egbughị oge
Many are still on the way because I know many will be coming.
Thank you. nọ nọkwa ebe a enwere nwaanyị nwe mmemme a nwaanyị na ọtụtụ hapụ anyị ga-akpọbata Ezinne Emilia ka ọ bịa kelee ọha na eze n'ụzọ niile bụ ụzọ dara ụda. Ezinne Emilia, biko ebe ọ bụla ọ nọ unu nyere m theater information. Thank you. Because you were. Nke nwoke ga-apụta ịnọ dịka nke nwoke na-abịa were ọnọdụ nke nwaanyị ga-akwado na-aga ebe a ga-akụnye ya mmanya ma o gosi ya onye wudi ya ndị egwu ụnụ ga-akụ egwu anyị ga-eji nabata nke nwoke ka ọ bịa were oche yes music egwu ndị ichie Okay, but excuse me. Buko, okay, so tag in okay, what do you here? Okay, Gari, 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 gari.